Hit Boy recently shared how he was sued over a Rihanna song from Anti, and it was over a sample pack that apparently he got from another producer that he didn't clear. Let's talk about this. I'm Sean, Lonegevity, with Bringing Down the Band and the New Old Heads podcast, and this is my Unpacked series where I typically go deeper on New Old Head segments.
So the producer Hit Boy got tricked by a fellow producer. So there's a video of
I don't know if tricked is the right word.
him talking about how he got ripped off about a sample library, something where it said royalty free, and he ended up having to lose all of his money. So let's watch this video and discuss.
On Anti, I got paid $45,000 per track that I did. So I had like, 90,000 that came in, right? I think the pre-save came out or something. Basically, once the thing comes out, it's a random producer.
I don't like the condescension there of calling him a random producer, especially from somebody that you're stealing from.
He produced on some other stuff that's like, popular. I think he produced on I Got the Keys. I don't even know his name, but he basically approached my attorneys and said that I stole his sound. I stole his music, but I got that pack out of the...
I don't know what podcast this is. I've seen this dude on the left. I've seen him pop up interviewing people maybe in the last week or two, but I've never seen him before. I don't know who this is.
Royalty free kit from I traded kits with Don Cannon. Basically got into a place where half of that money, that $45,000, I had to give it to him. You know what I mean? And I had to give him most of the percentage on the song. So he tells me, you stole from me and da-da-da. And I just was like, what? I was like, bro, we could tap in and we can make more music. He like, nah, you stole my sound. I'm like, all right, bro. So I had to give him the $45,000 back. And I was just like, I was pretty like confused about that.
I mean, from one perspective, I understand where he's coming from. Like, my bad. I screwed up. Let's go get some money. But I also understand the other side of this, which is like, now you're doing this. You know what I mean? But as a producer, sometimes you understand, like, especially if you're using royalty-free packs, sometimes sampling too. It's like, sometimes you don't remember where things come from. And, we should all do a better job with that.
It's like, he big dog the situation,
I want to talk about the sample pack conversation. We've had that in terms of royalty free.
We had somebody on the show talk about Hit Boy stealing from him.
Right. But
in our past episode.
But I want to focus on the other producer.
Okay.
So did the producer who sued Hit Boy make a crucial mistake by not entering a working relationship with him? Why or why not? Because we're looking at $45,000 versus a potential working relationship with a top tier producer. That's what I want to talk about. What do y'all think?
Depending on where you are in life, you want the money.
Good point.
But second of all, if you genuinely feel like you've been stolen from, like, I don't know if it depends on how. I'm not in that nurturing place sometimes. I was like, I need to pay bills today. What you used from me, whether you know it or not, has created a certain level amount of money, and I need that money. And so
it could have been a situation where they came to an agreement that I'm going to give you this much money, and then versus you taking a percentage on all of this music that you so-called claim I stole, we worked together on some stuff. But in the same token, is him saying or reaching out to this producer that he got this sample pack from, so-called, saying that let's work together, is that an admission of guilt? It's kind of where I'm at with it, because, like, I understand getting a beat or a beat pack with drums and things of that nature, which are already programmed, and you're just chopping them up how you see fit. But the way that he's saying, versus giving him that $45,000 and a percentage off of whatever songs that he's claimed that he used, let's just work together on some shit. To me, that kind of sounds funny.
What you think, Lo?
Yeah, to answer your first question, I think it depends on the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is a scenario to where, like, the producer reaches back and says, "Oh, my bad. Let me give you a percentage because this is yours, or let me pay you for this because this is yours, and then let's also do some stuff."
Yeah, let's do some stuff.
I'll be honest. I need to see the conversation from the other person's point of view.
That's fair.
I need to hear what they're saying. To me, this is Hit Boy being lazy. Number one, he admitted guilt because he said he traded packs with Dom. If you are trading packs, it means you are not purchasing packs. That means you are not buying the royalty-free packs. You are trading theft.
I didn't think about that.
That's what you're doing.
Pirating.
And most producers I know do that. So
I did not think about that
I'm
part.
not guilty here. You know what I mean? Yeah. he is in the wrong, but I've done that. You know, like that's an ethical thing that I have done in the past. Now I do buy packs now. If I do buy a pack, usually don't buy packs. Shouts to the people that I do buy packs from, you know, people that I have purchased from. Realistically, the only people that I do buy from are the Count, because his drums slap, you know, and does a really good job of like engineering his custom sounds. 𝗕𝗢𝗪𝗓 does some good stuff too. I think he dropped a new one. I might have to check that one out. AJ Hall. It's mostly drums for me. I usually don't go and get like sample packs for like samples and stuff like that, and things of that nature, just because of content ID stuff. And plus, I pretty much play from scratch anymore, anyways. But for a very, very long time, the culture around trading drums was very much a thing, you know, in many producer circles, and that probably wasn't necessarily the best thing. So kudos to y'all that have got out of that a little bit. But, you know, a lot of times too, it's like a starting point for people. You know, I've given people drums and things and sounds of that nature in the past, just because it's like, here, you know, go practice, you know, go get better with it. And, but it's different from like, here, take this and go practice. And then, hey, take this and go put this on major records, that you're going to make a lot of money from. Those are two different things too, you know? So I think we can look at the nuance a little bit there as well. But generally speaking, the rule that I've always kind of abided by is if you're going to make money from it, make sure that you're paying for the thing that you're using. You know, I think that's a good way to kind of look at it. Or you can just buy everything, you know what I mean? So from that perspective, but that's what that is, you know.
And he just added a Cody by saying he got it from Don Kennedy.
Or Don Cannon.
Don Kennedy.
Yeah,
I'm tripping. It was Don Kennedy.
Don Cannon's like, hey.
Keep my name out this.
But also, you know, sometimes, you know, there's multiple layers of blame here, because this isn't necessarily just, sure, did Hit Boy drop the ball? Yeah. Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. Because he should know that what he's going through. And believe me, we have talked to producers on the show that have had this conversation about Hit Boy specifically doing this.
Yep.
And, you know, interestingly enough, it was kind of around the same time too, on multiple records. No, actually it was earlier. No, it's actually later than that. So maybe not. And, you know, so from one perspective, yes, it would be better to, I think, if the relationship can be saved, cool. But if somebody has a history of doing stuff like this, then it's kind of like, or if they've done it multiple times, or if it's on multiple records, or, you know, multiple people that this person has done some stuff from, why would you want to do business with that person?
You know what stood out to me too?
Yeah, this is bad business. Like a person who is stealing from me, why do I want to do business with somebody who is known to be dishonest? You know, like, I don't know. It's, even if it's out of ignorance, even if it's not even out of like sheer evil, like I don't even want to put that on Hit Boy. This may not even be out of sheer evil. Maybe he thinks that he's checking all the boxes off. You know what I mean? Like maybe he thought for a very long time that there were no repercussions to the thing that he was doing, because he was doing it technically the right way. That's why sample packs exist in the first place. Sample packs exist because people wanted to get around clearing samples. Maybe there was just ignorance there.
Is the fact that he mentioned, I got the keys. So the producer that was reaching out must have been somewhat established.
Absolutely.
So he can also pay for the lawyers to come after him.
Yep.
Because usually
the person doesn't have the money for the lawyers.
So Hit Boy, we're going to use him as an example because we've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
He knows that everybody's not going to be able to come get me. Mm-hmm. I'm just being honest. Yep. He knows that.
Yep.
So he got burned because somebody actually had to paper the lawyer up and be like, nah, I want my money.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
No. And also he probably just wasn't thinking about it. I think there is probably definitely a reasonable argument to be like, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. You know, like maybe both things can be true. For sure.
And
ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
At all. But I guess I'm thinking, because there's a small portion of me that says percentage and relationship.
But at the same time, you have to understand how sample packs work, and you should be proactive from a place of power. Oh, absolutely.
Because I know what that could yield moving forward. But
I almost want to ask you a very personal question about what you would do in a particular situation based upon some shit that's happened to you.
Go ahead.
I'm going to pause here. We're not going to watch this. I dropped this video. This portion right here is about the Ryan Leslie situation. So go check that out. We're going to stay very specific on the Hit Boy stuff though. So the royalty free stuff is very interesting. Like, you have to pay attention. This is what Jackson knows this, who's sitting over there. I told him from the very early, when we first worked on your first project together, you had a copyright hit on a sample pack you used, and we had to go back. I had to make you go back in and rework that, because It was his original beat. He was using an original sample or a royalty-free sample, if you will. But somebody had already put that out and had already claimed the content ID on it.
There you go.
And so he had to rework that so he didn't run into any potential issues. And that's another side of this as well. I'm talking about Jackson. He's our former intern, I would say, like associate producer of sorts. He handles and helps us on the back end of the new old heads. But he's also, he came into that role because he was one of my students early on. I taught him at 𝗕𝗥𝗪𝗡 here, one of our new old heads partners. I taught him at 𝗕𝗥𝗪𝗡 from, I think, end of 7th grade all the way up till he graduated. And now he goes to the same university that I teach at. I don't have him as a student, but he's there. But he is a producer. He has produced a lot of stuff. He's got some slaps, so go check him out. But like, I helped during COVID. I helped him kind of executive produce his first project. And so that's where that came from. So it's a project called Spaceship Coffee Shop by the Gobinator. So check that out. Oh, it's like, sample packs,
I was actually going to ask one of y'all to explain to people how a sample pack works. Like, how can a producer use a sample pack without it being a situation to where, regardless of it being royalty free, that they don't get hit or dinged as far as
the thing is that different. It's not this like, I think the thing that a lot of producers don't quite understand is that it's not a blanket. Just because it exists on Splice or it exists in wherever you buy it from does not mean that the contract is same for every single one. Some people have 100% royalty free stuff. You can do whatever you want. Some other people have stuff to where like up until so many streams. Some other people have some, you can use this, but it can't be commercial. Or you can't use content ID with it. 𝗕𝗥𝗪𝗡's situation was interesting because he had an exclusive deal with Native Instruments.
Yep.
And what happened there was they resold those rights. I think this is the case. Ills, if you end up watching this, please chime in the comments. But like, I believe that was the case. I believe, and sold them to Splice and uploaded them somewhere else where I think Hit Boy most likely came and went and got him or something, something like that. So it was like one of those type of situations to where, yes, Hit Boy is kind of in, or who knows, maybe. Who knows how, because it wasn't even Hit Boy got him from there. He got him from Don Cannon. So they're wrong to some degree because, but at the same time, you can also potentially chalk that up to just like ignorance and, maybe he could have handled the situation better with the people's stuff.
That's the part.
But from the other perspective, to me, the person at fault is the corporation of either Native Instruments and or Splice that put 𝗕𝗥𝗪𝗡 in the situation to be exploited and to not be able to make money from something that could be potentially career changing. And I guess also too, it depends on how like, because I think he said, was it Don Cannon, the producer? It depended on like how he got the pack. I don't know. How did he get the pack? Did he buy the pack from someplace? Did he get the exclusive pack from? The interesting thing about that particular piece too was that it was, I think he had clauses in there or something. Like he had reference drums and then he had them tracked out, and like the reference drums are like breaks, and it was like the breaks that were used. It was like 𝗕𝗥𝗪𝗡's breaks that were used. But who knows if like Cannon was like gifted them, or maybe he was a part of a program or something. I don't know how he got them. You know what I mean? But then it happened. They were trading after the fact as well, for that particular situation. Again, I'm kind of speaking from ignorance, but I'm giving you all the different scenarios it possibly could be.
There's a part of that video where he talks about, I had to trim it down just for the sake of time. Sure. But there's a part of that video where he talks about, man, I got the loop and I loaded it up and I assigned it to pads and I chopped it up so it wasn't like the loop.
Yep.
Right. So he thought, I'm not taking the old boy's loop and just using the whole loop. I chopped it up and turned it into my own creation based off of being royalty free.
Sure.
Now, me looking at that situation, I'm like, okay, that should be cool.
Yeah,
that should be clear. Like you did your own idea with it. You just didn't take it verbatim.
Yep.
To me, that's fine.
Yep.
But the fact that he still got burned off that, man, that's either a good lawyer or there's some paperwork or something that I'm.
Well, it depends on what it depends on what the licensing agreement is with the royalty, the pack, right? So if it's one of those things where like, no, it just depends. They're different, and you need to be able to pay. You need to pay attention to that.
Or it sounded too similar to what it originally sounded like.
Or he simply didn't clear the sample.
That's it.
Like it can be royalty free up to a point.
Up until a point,
and sometimes producers do put the clause in there. It's like, you can use it up to a point, but I need credit. I need points. I need my publishing.
Yeah.
I need XY. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the music industry is a very interesting, hard to grasp industry. And if you don't have the right people around, then you're going to lose money, or you're going to lose opportunities, or you're going to get,
screwed.
That's why I do the stuff that I do.
So would that be considered, like we talking about ghost writers? Are there ghost producers as far as I'm creating this sound and you're using it? I have a contract that states that you don't have to put my name on it.
Maybe.
But there's other, paperwork that says that you do have to.
It probably looks different now.
I mean, I know I've had students that have got some major placements, and that's usually when you see like produced by like 5 different people. It's like, all right, this person made the melody, this person did the drums, this person did this. It's like more of a collaborative situation, and you see that quite a bit. But usually, at least in the last decade or so, all those producers are getting credits. All those producers' names in there. They're just splitting. They're just taking a portion of it, and they're just splitting the producer part. So instead of the producer taking, I don't know, let's say 25% of the publishing, it'd be like 4 producers splitting 25% of the publishing. So split the points in a different type of way. Well, usually what happens is you look at it in the same way that you'd look at a session musician, right?
Yeah.
You can pay for this drummer to come in and play some stuff. And depending on that contract that you work with them, most likely, I always say you always get paid twice as a musician. You get paid from the actual recording of it, and you get paid from the intellectual property of the thing that you're creating. I always put it in 2 buckets. There's two buckets, and you have to think of them separately. You have to think of it like, all right, I made this thing. I made this drum pattern in Ableton, right? I did this over here. I made this drum pattern. And then when I rendered that file out, it goes from intellectual property, the thing that I thought in my head, over to this physical or digital physical waveform of this drum pattern. That drum pattern or that song, whatever that is the master recording of that. And so if you make that drum pattern and it's used in a master recording, you technically own that drum pattern. Now, what that person who owns that song that uses that drum pattern can do is can say, hey, I want to pay you for this drum pattern because I want to collect all of my royalties from the master recording, from this actual recording that you did. I want to just retain all that because it's easier, blah, 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 blah. That's typically where that lump sum fee for the master recording comes from. But over here, you still have the intellectual property, the thing that you made, right? Because you can render another version of it, different types of drums, or you can play, or if you're recording it, it can be a little bit different. Whatever, it's your intellectual property. That's where publishing is. That's where songwriting is. So you get paid for the master recording. Maybe you don't get residuals, you got upfront money, but on the publishing end, because you made that, that's where the other points come in. And so that's the part where you still, as a producer or as a drummer or as a session musician, you need to continue to claim that small percentage, whatever that is, whether it's 25% if you're splitting it with somebody, or it's 5% because you just did something small. You should always retain that and you should not sell that. So if you're negotiating in these particular types of ways, you should always get paid twice. The fee for being able to exploit the recording, and then the points for contributing to the idea. And that idea over there is also typically, like when you're clearing a sample, you're clearing it with all the people that have the intellectual property. Right. So you have to clear every single one of those people. And then that's why the publishing points can be spread so thin sometimes. I talk about that here a little bit, but when they pay you for that, they're paying for that recording. You still own that intellectual property of that drum. So you should retain your publishing, at least points of it.
So you can't keep using that same drum that I did on future songs unless I'm still getting paid for it.
Or more so, yes, because that's the recording, right? So again, like if it's just the recording of it, the music industry is it's so hard to grasp sometimes. Then you can use it for whatever that recording is, and I'll pay you $500 to come in here and record this. But what I always tell musicians and producers is like, look, you should always get paid from your publishing as well, because you came up with that. So yes, you're going to register, the song's going to go out. You know, this person's going to put out, Hit Boy's going to put out this record with these drums from this person. He paid him $500. That person, that drummer no longer gets paid from any, typically what happens is that payment is so that the producer or the artist does not have to pay royalties for that. And when I say royalties, I mean the master recording royalties, right? So that's what that's for. But you still have to pay for the intellectual property. That's where the publishing, that's where your ASCAPs and things. And so from a perspective of what we're talking about with the other examples here, right? Buying the royalty-free sample or whatever is use that master recording, the recording of me making the sample pack. You can use that for your master recording all you want, royalty-free, meaning that you don't have to give me points on that. But some packs I have seen on the publishing admin side want to reclaim their points. So like, for example, it might be good practice for me, since I mentioned earlier that I've used count stuff, depending on how he wants to do it or not. Let's say I use his drums on 3 records or 3 songs of some new thing. And maybe it's like a break. Like it's not a one shot. It's like kind of his break, right? Well, he may have it built into his contract and everything that you can use it, whatever, who cares? But maybe I want to do the due diligence and reach out to him because I used his pack and say, hey, I used your drums on this. I'll give you, 5 points on the publishing. Is that okay? Or, like you can build that relationship with that artist. And that's what Hit Boy was talking about. But like, it should be Hit Boy as the one to initiate that from the beginning, not after some stuff that happens. You know what I mean? And then that way you still claim all the streaming royalty, but like if it gets, radio play or something like that, then the count or whomever is going to collect a little bit of money in the back end, and then it helps fuel the whole economy of everything. It's just kind of a smart, good way to network, to be honest. So I don't know. And the thing is like, depending on what the contract is at that point in time, depending on what it says, like even if you're doing a solid like that, even if they say no, it doesn't matter because it's in the contract, right? They can't necessarily say no unless it is in the contract that you need to clear that and give the person points for it. Then you can do it. So hope that makes sense. That thing you should always retain your publishing if you make something.
So Clyde Stubblefield has gotten royally screwed.
Yes.
I'm talking about bad, bro.
Yep.
For those of
That
you who don't
funky
know,
drummer
that is,
loop, bro.
Yeah.
Because he was paid for the master recording. He was paid a flat fee, I believe, but he never regained publishing. And then every single time he was sampled, again, so he was sampled. If you sample a record, you have to clear the original, right? And so drum breaks are the same thing. So being the most used drum break of all time means that he's being sampled a lot. So imagine getting 5% from 7,000 records that are played. You know what I mean? Like that adds up. As opposed to just getting paid $500 one time for something. You got to retain that publishing.
You know how many times I don't have to tell you. I don't have to tell you that. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the ones that you think about where it has been.
It's literally
everywhere.
the most used drum break of all time.
I would agree.
So technically, every time that they had to clear that sample from that, what song is that from?
Funky Drummer.
Is it from the
Funky Drummer.
Yeah. Okay, so I just couldn't remember which song, if it was specifically the Funky Drummer, because he was known as the Funky Drummer. Anyways. Every time that break is used, that recording of that break, that somebody chops that break up, that recording, whoever owns that it has to be cleared through them. So the Funky Drummer, if they use the drums, not only should Clyde be getting paid, but
he doesn't though.
Right, but that's James Brown too, right?
Yeah, that's James Brown.
But also every other producer on that record, also the record label and the other musicians on that as well. Everybody, because again, you're clearing the recording, and on that recording, who owns that recording technically is everybody that's on that record. If I do a record with Major 7th and Jay Moore and Jay Diff on here, right, and it's all 4 of us, regardless if they just sampled the drum portion that I make, we all own the song, so you have to clear it from all of us. It's a part of that particular recording is ownership of that. And so if Clyde was just paid out of cash for whatever that was
as a session musician
and didn't retain his publishing, his intellectual property of it, then that $500 stops there.
That's it. Damn.
You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why you always have to retain that publishing, because if it gets reused again, you can go back and get new money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And plus you own it. It's the same thing with the Taylor Swift stuff. That's why Taylor Swift recorded Taylor's
her stuff,
because she was the intellectual property owner. She made those songs. The record label owned the recordings, but she's like, well, I wrote the songs, so I can just record my versions and make double the money.
And that's what
Shanti was trying to do the same thing.
You see there's a lot, look, Salt and Peppers re-recorded a lot of their records.
As they should.
statue
without
to-
spin. Oh, that's messed up.
Well,
But,
I don't know about that.
you know, but there are newer artists like what was the guy who did the song "Take You to Bed"?
Jay Holiday.
Jay
Yeah,
Holiday.
Jay Holiday.
Well, that was written by The Dream.
He re-recorded that.
Mm.
You know, Alexander O'Neal is re-recorded, but the thing is, your voice changes as you age.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know, so it's just kind of crazy. Where it's like,
But if the
oh.
Dream wrote it,
He did write it.
he gets paid for both versions.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I mean, even when you hear the song,
It's
it's,
like a
like
cover.
that's definitely The Dream. when
It's
you hear
like
the
a
song.
cover. It's like
It's
a cover.
treated similarly to a cover.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, interesting facts.
Yeah, man. Well,
but yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence halfway and halfway with Hit Boy here. I think he should operate and do better business. And I think him being who he is, I think he should probably have better practices,
Mm.
and especially to protect himself.
You
And
know
then
what?
maybe he does now.
I think this record.
I think that's a big point as well, because maybe he does now, because who knows how long in the past. I mean, if this is Rihanna's anti-record, you know, I'm sure he does operate better business now, especially with the other stuff that's happening too, because, I mean, we talked about it. Other people have talked about it. Surely he is a little bit more aware of this stuff, and assuming that he is a person of integrity, I don't know the person, then, you know, I'm giving him the benefit here, then I'm sure he operates a little bit different within those contracts and the sounds that he uses, and understands how he's using that. That's also how he's able to kind of pump through so much music. Let's be real. But yeah, you can't advocate for artists and then be an artist and then see a situation where an artist is kind of getting exploited, even if it's you, and then still go again. Like you should be like, damn, I messed up.
Yeah.
Let me do the solid here.
Yeah. Hopefully these stories will help somebody. Pay attention, because it's probably 10 times easier to do this stuff now. So
I think I kind of covered everything, but I think in general, you know, just to kind of to tee it up, you know, a lot of this stuff is a live and learn situation. But, you know, when you talk about the producer that sued him, when you talk about producers that get beats stolen, people that get their kits stolen, people, you know, make a lot of money off of not giving particular credit and things of that nature, you know, I think we have to do better as an artistic community in general. And this includes people as big as such as Hit Boy and things of that nature too. Sure, it's don't sample, snitch all day and all that. But at the same time, it's also take care of your business, because we can do better now. Sampling now is not the same as it was back in the 80s. You know, it's different. And we all know that. And we should operate better. But anyways, this is from episode 483 of the New Old Heads podcast. We're almost up to 500. Make sure you find us, slap that subscribe button, subscribe here, turn on notifications, hit the bell, and become a Patreon member for $5, or a YouTube member if you want to support and get all that uncut content. So I'll be back again in the near future, hopefully. And see you next time. Peace.